Smart24, driving business.
A very good morning and welcome to Smart Men's Business and Anchi Barije. Today is the 3rd of March and of course it's yet. That is another business day, and of course it started well, quite in a very tricky style, and of course with the very heavy rains in the morning, which have really disrupted probably quite so many people's businesses, internet businesses. Probably you had some appointments you had set up for this very day, but anyway, definitely life has to move on. Of course, you have to ensure that you put all those other factors aside and of course get to move on, and we execute almost everything that we almost need to execute at the very right time. How are you doing today? We're heading into weekend. It's a Friday, and of course I hope you're really fed up for the weekend, and of course making sure that you go back to do the right strategies. Of course, sorry for any person that in case the business didn't really go well this week, and of course it's time for you to get back on your knees, on your ground, and make sure that you really look up to that and ensure that you don't make the very mistakes again, because of course we learn from the mistakes, but at the end of the day the most important aspect is to perfect what we didn't do right in order to get the best result, to get the best excellence result. And of course at this very time we're going to get into our very first update, and when I'll be back we shall be giving some little bit of a slight insight. Stick around.
The pledges made which are not yet fulfilled: the global temperature goals, the carbon trade, the nature-based solutions, climate change-induced human mobility, among others. But I think the question to ask is, what next? This was the first time I was asked to lead this delegation. I've never attended the COP meetings, but I was just amazed at the number of activists. I think there were more than the government delegations. I met so many Ugandan children, kept coming to say, I'm a Ugandan, hello madam. I said, what are all these children doing here? How did they all come here? And I asked myself, after here, how are we going to harness their knowledge, their activism, to ensure that what they discussed, what they contributed to, can be used in the country? So I want to ask the minister and all the actors to ensure that they find a way of incorporating these young people, so that we can use their ideas to continue the propagation of the message. I think it will help us with the implementation plan. I've also heard here from the Commissioner that Uganda is going to invest in evidence-based studies. So as I said, okay, who do we have in this country who is knowledgeable and who is able to give appropriate evidence on this issue? So I ask myself, are we deliberately training Ugandans? Are we developing this capacity? I ask myself, what are the courses being done at the university? Are we investing in specialists in this area? Or we are just hoping to pick up we advertise and people just come? So what is in our human resource development plan for Uganda? The issue of climate change is going to be with us for a long time. So what is the plan? So I think about those things I was sitting here. So I think that we need to get out of the comfort zone and really do some more pragmatic planning for the country, targeted, so that we have our own experts and we are able to get these evidence-based studies without having to borrow from other people. Now, I was also reading that we have a task force on the carbon market, inaugurated in October last year. I don't know that they've commenced work, but all those who have spoken have said we need to build a capacity on carbon trade negotiations. Again, it's an area which I thought we need to invest in and ensure that we have the right people saying the right things at the right time. We were quite busy in Sharm el-Sheikh, and a lot of other things took place. Now, I would like us to inform the country about the African Forest Landscape Restoration Initiative. There are more than 120 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. 2030 is how many years? 7 years. Are we going to meet that target? Okay, forget the Kenyans and the Tanzanians. Are we as Uganda going to meet that target? What's our plan to get there? I think there are things that we need to look at to see that we are doing our part of the governance. I'm also happy to inform that the African Cities Adaptation Fund was launched at COP27. This will enable African city leaders directly access funding and technical support to implement innovative solutions targeting issues of integrated governance, watershed management, increasing sanitation services, improved stormwater management and wastewater management. Just 2 days ago, this city was flooded. It was flooded. That's because of a bit of rain. These are things that our city leaders need to be informed about and be guided on how to access African cities' water adaptation fund.
Well, that's something regarding climate financing, and of course one of the major aspects, which is a global move globally, and of course due to the massive global warming that is moving on around, it's very important to consider that. But of course, before we get very far, don't forget this morning Zabu just made your trading experience much more friendly and much more easier. No more paperwork and no more hassle. You just dial *292#. That is the code, and you'll be available with quite lots of opportunities. You can buy government bonds, securities. That's according to what you really, according to your choice, and you will be able to earn yourself an income. The markets open at exactly 8:15 till 3:15 p.m. That is East African time, 8:15 a.m. till 3:15 p.m. That is Monday to Friday, except on the weekends. And of course on the public holidays where they don't really operate. And also some amazing aspect in here is that if you're no longer interested, that is to sell stocks, you can actually, to transact in stocks, you can choose to sell off your stocks and you get your money instantly. Then just there *292#. That is the magic code. Well, now away from that, heading back to the first update, just a little bit on the key highlights regarding that. I reviewed an aspect of the national, that is environmental fund, that is to be reinstated. Yeah, the environmental fund. As much as we talk about this, there is need to be funding, because into this there is what we call awareness campaigns, which can be really spread across the country and across the different individuals to get you understand how best can we really solve our climate related problems. And also the ministers in charge were urged to follow up on the fund. Yes, it's put there, but there should be a follow-up to ensure that it's meeting the targeted, to meet the targets of the fund. So there is need to be some sort of a follow-up, and also investing in human knowledge so that people become experts. Yes, we need experts. This is a personal responsibility that every person needs to know that they are responsible for how the climate really turns out. That is knowledge. That's, you become your own expert. You become your own advisor when it comes to that is matters of climate change. And also building capacity, that is on carbon trade negotiations. Yeah, the capacitation has not really been the best, but as of course being a global move, there need to be to increase the capacity, despite the fact that we can talk about the trade negotiations. But if we don't have the capacity that is to sustain this, that won't be really very appropriate in the climate, in the fight towards climate destruction, and of course avoiding the climate change. And also there is what we should expect, that is in COP28, And of course, we saw the recent COP27 with some of the greenhouse emission technologies that were proposed to ensure that there is a fight against climate change, against the excess global warming. And also the Ministry of Finance was urged to come up with the budget that is for COP28. So there is need to be ultimate preparations to ensure that it is a success, that nothing really goes in vain. But above all, it's a personal responsibility. It's your personal responsibility to ensure that you do the best. You don't have to destroy. You shouldn't wait for the stakeholders to remind you about the climate change. That's why it was very, very crucial for us to have what we know as the climate funding. Well, it's exactly 23 past. That is 7 a.m. and at this particular time, we're going to get into a short break. And when I return, we shall be looking at what's happening around East Africa, what's happening around the entire globe, and of course getting to understand how do the events around the world affect, of course, the regional events, and back to Uganda, domestication of these related events. Let's get into a break. I'll be right back with the international and East African business news. Good morning.